Welcome back to another episode of Tech Tuesday. I have to say I'm really excited for this season of Tech Tuesday. I got such good feedback from the first episode, and a lot of teachers telling me that they felt really comfortable using Google Drawings from the brief tutorial that I gave. I even got an example from someone. Beth O'Connell, the librarian at NPMS, was kind enough to send me what she had worked on, a digital poster. She added in a background, text, and some graphics. And this is a great poster we can use around the schools in support of digital citizenship. This would also be a great way for your students to try out Google Drawings by creating a digital poster or flyer. If students haven't used the program before, most likely they'll be very intrigued by it and will want to play around with it at first and not really listen to directions. So I recommend, and this goes for any program that would be new to students, to give them about 5 minutes to play around with the program, check out the features, and essentially get the wiggles out. Then, once they've done that, they could go in and clear out the canvas by having them drag the mouse across the canvas, which will highlight and select everything, and then they can click delete on their keyboard and start fresh. Since that first episode 2 weeks ago, I've also received some requests to do some more advanced training. So in today's episode, I'll show you 2 of the examples I mentioned in the last episode about labeling diagrams. And if you haven't checked out the PD catalog for Intersessions this week, I'll also be doing a slightly more advanced Google Drawing session. So make sure to check out the catalog and see when those sessions will be available. The first example I want to start with is how to label a map. So in this case, the first thing I need to do is to go find a picture of a map that I could insert into my Google Drawing. But I really shouldn't throw in just any old image that I find on the internet, especially if this is something that students will be working on and we might perhaps want to publish it later to go on the district website. So let's talk about copyright for a minute. Since Beth is already one of our resident experts on copyright and she was interested in Google Drawings, I asked her to explain a little bit more about copyright. So what exactly is copyright?
Copyright is basically the rights of the producer of the thing to own it and to decide how other people can use it. Anything is protected by copyright in the U.S. if it's produced or publicized somewhere. So if you put something on the internet, you don't have to register it with the Copyright Office or anything. It's already protected. This is part of intellectual property rights, which we need to be aware of. For instance, when musicians create a piece of music, they want to be able to make money off of it usually. And if someone else takes it and puts it up on the internet for free, they're basically stealing from that musician. It gives people the right to profit from their creative endeavors.
So why is this something important that we need to teach our students, especially with something like Google Drawings, that they're going to be importing images in and being able to use it? Why should we be teaching students about copyright?
This is related to plagiarism. Basically, plagiarism is stealing intellectual property rights,
Right.
or stealing intellectual property. So images are protected just like anything else. If you take a photograph and you put it up on the internet, other people can use it, but we need to teach students what they should and should not use. Partly because their work needs to be protected too. They need to understand that.
Absolutely, thinking more of, especially if they're creating things like in art classes or different things that as they get older, knowing that they can kind of create their own job, maybe even off
Right.
of this, and this is how they could make money by creating.
Yeah. I think we have students in this school who have their own YouTube channels.
I'm sure
They
we
produce machinima from, say, Minecraft or something like that, and they put them up, and some of those kids become pros. Not necessarily here, but...
Absolutely. I follow a few YouTube people who started out really small, and now they have multi-million-dollar companies.
Right.
Just because they created YouTube videos, and people started following them and wanted more, and they were able to create a business out of it.
Right.
So it's something easily our students can do.
Yeah.
What are some sites that you would recommend for teachers to go to that would have things for like copyright-free images?
Basically, it's not so much a site as a method. I use Google Images search.
Okay.
So when you go to Google, you click on the Images tab, and then up at the top there is a Tools button. If you click that, you get another set of menus that come up, and there's one called Usage Rights. So this creates a filter. You can, if I search for dogs, I have all kinds of pictures of dogs on here. If I want pictures of dogs that I can use, I'm going to click labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. That way I can crop it or do something with it. So now I have a bunch of pictures that I can use. So when I click on the picture, I can either go to the page that it's on, or I can just click View Image, right click on it and Save Image As, and then I save it to wherever I want to put it.
Okay, great. Because that would be an easy way for students to then be able to import it into anything, not just Google Drawings. It could be a Prezi or Google Slides or anything like that.
Right. One thing that's important to note is that it's probably a good idea for students to keep a record of where they got these things.
Absolutely.
Sometimes when I click Save As, I'll put the URL for the website where I got it from in the file name. I take out all the characters that can't save as files,
Yeah,
but
that's a good idea.
like all the, I'll put dashes instead of instead of the slashes.
What is Creative Commons and how can students and teachers use this?
Creative Commons is a way of labeling your work for these kinds of attributes. Reuse with modification, commercial reuse, non-commercial reuse. There's also an attribution part of it. Creative Commons logos can be attached to documents on the web or printed to indicate how that material can be used by people. And Creative Commons has been used to free up a lot of resources for everybody. There are a lot of people out there who make their work available for anybody else to use. It's wonderful.
Do you have anything else about copyright that we need to be aware of?
I wanted to mention trademark because copyright is only prosecuted legally if the person chooses to. But if they have a trademark on the thing like SpongeBob or Mickey Mouse or something like that, if it's a trademark
Mickey Mouse
thing,
is a big one because Disney really goes after people if they use it incorrectly.
They do, yeah. You have to have a license to use a trademark thing. So you want to be really careful, and Disney is really active in prosecuting. The thing about trademark is that for the trademark holder, they must prosecute infringements or they lose the trademark.
Oh, well, I was not aware of that.
That's the difference between trademark and copyright.
Okay.
So it's just something to be aware of.
Definitely. So, all right, well, thank you so much for helping explain exactly what copyright is and trademarks.
Yeah, thank you.
It. Beth mentioned Creative Commons, and the website is a wealth of information about copyright licenses, but it also has a section of the site where you can go and look up copyright-free resources. The direct link is search.creativecommons.org, and it has much more than just images. It also has music, videos, and media, such as audio where you could look up speeches. It's very easy to use. Put in the topic that you're searching for, and then decide on the options that you want. I generally just leave it as it is and go ahead and do my search. And then I can decide on which site that I want to use. In this case, I'll use Google Images. And it will automatically give me the results. This looks like a good map here, so I can go ahead and click on it. And just like Beth said, you could right click and go to Save Image As, or you could go to View Image, which will give you just the image, and then go ahead and do Save Image As. In the interest of time, I've already inserted it into a Google drawing along with some terms and put them down into a Word box. This was very easy to create. I just took a shape and drew it out to about the width of the canvas for the Google drawing, and then made text boxes and put the terms in. I'm going to use this as an activity to have students label the regions of Virginia. And there's two ways I could do this. One is very basic and one is more advanced. The basic way is I could go up and take my arrow tool and draw an arrow to the region that I want to select, and then go back and click on this arrow to deselect the arrow tool. And then I could have students physically move the text box to label that region. This is a little tricky to see though, and it could leave some doubt as to what area the student is identifying. So let's look at a more advanced way. The next way that I could do it is I could take my shape tool, grab a rectangle, and draw a box around the area that I want to label. It is going to layer the shape over the map, so to change that, I'm going to go to the fill of my shape and make it transparent, and then on the border of my shape, I'm going to take a bright color, and then I'm going to change the thickness of my border. So now I have a clear area that's being identified. Then I can have students physically move the CHIRM to label that area, and then I could use this little circle tool here at the top that actually turns the text box and have them fit the CHIRM right inside the area that they're labeling. Let's look at another example. We'll go back to the plant and animal cell. Again, this is an image that I found using the Creative Commons search tool. I really like this one because it's already partially labeled for me and clearly indicates which parts go to an animal cell and which parts to a plant cell. The easiest way that I could label my diagram here is to again take the text box and move it up to the line. Now again, I could take this to an advanced level and put boxes around my CHIRMs. So here I'm going to go back to shapes and grab the shape that I want. And in this case, I would write all of the CHIRMs first so that you can identify which one is the longest CHIRM. Then draw a box around that CHIRM to make sure that it fits. Then you'll have boxes of equal sizes for all of your CHIRMs. You'll just need to make sure that they fit inside the box and line up correctly. So again, my box is on top of my text, so I need to change the order of this. I'm going to right click and go to Order and Send to Back. Now I can see that the box clearly wraps around the text and my text is in the center of the box. However, that brings up another issue. I need to create this box again to use for all of my other CHIRMs. Sometimes the text box, because it's now in front of the shape box, it becomes harder to grab the box. So here you can see I was able to do it here, but sometimes it's not as easy to do that. So here I can just copy and paste this real quick and move it over to the next CHIRM. If it becomes too difficult to try to grab the box behind the text, there's one of two ways to grab the box. You could either take the text box and move it out of the way and then grab your shape, or, let me put this back for a second, or you could hit the undo key to undo the order now that you know that it fits properly, and then copy and paste your boxes from there. So since I've already done this, I'm just going to copy this again, and then all I need to do is paste the next several boxes that I need and move those boxes on top of my CHIRMs. I'll click on my first box and then hold the Control key down on my keyboard and select all of the other boxes. Then I can right click, go to Order, and Send to Back. Once that's done, I can then group the CHIRMs and the boxes together. So I will draw a larger box around this CHIRM, right click, and go to Group. And I can do the same for all of the others. I can't draw a box around all of them or use the Control key because that would group all of them together instead of just each one individually. And see, sometimes it can be tricky to grab the right one. So in that case, if that happens, hit the control key and click on the one that you don't want selected, and that will deselect it as well. Then once that is done, I can grab the term and it will move together as one object. I've ran out of time for an app spotlight, but I hope the discussion on copyright has been helpful for you. And a big thank you to Beth O'Connell for helping to explain it. I'll be back in 2 weeks with an app spotlight and a new topic. Thanks for watching.